So everybody, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are getting value out of these calls. I know I am, that's for dang sure. So can everybody hear me? Everybody hear quick mic check for John and Mike, and everybody gives a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Good, buddy.
All right, awesome.
Hey guys.
Okay, so really quick, my little thing behind me here is embrace reality and deal with it. I thought that was pretty timely. I've been listening to a lot of stuff. One of the guys I like to follow is Ray Dalio. He wrote the book Principles. And if you guys don't follow him on Instagram, follow Ray Dalio Principles on Instagram. He has great little one-liners or little quotes out of his book. And this was one that he came in yesterday, embrace reality and deal with it. And I think that's so true. I mean, I know for me, I'm trying to adjust to this new normal and thinking about it as it's not difficult, it's different. And if we can all learn how to thrive in this new normal, man, think of how much easier it's going to be when we really get back to normal. So with all that being said, I want to welcome Mike Brenny and John Maxim. Mike, how you doing today?
Awesome, buddy.
John, what'd you have for breakfast today?
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit?
Ooh. A grapefruit, yeah.
You didn't have like spaghetti with Cheerios and, you know, Smarties or something?
I do have some Peeps around here that I have been eating all day, but yeah, not just a grapefruit for breakfast today.
All right, well, that's really positive. I like it. Okay, so guys, I thought this could be fun, right? I think we all need some laughs, and not that we're going to laugh at John and Mike, because these guys have been doing real estate for so long, and they were partners for quite a long time. They've done a ton of houses together. And so I think just knowing them both individually, then also being with them together, I think their back and forth is going to be pretty funny and very informative. We're going to learn a lot of lessons. And so this format for today is we're going to kind of go through a few of their deals from the past, and we're going to hear their stories about them, and then we're going to get takeaways, right? And remember when Mike Baird was on, we're looking for that one idea we can implement this next week, that one idea that might save one of the deals that we're in the middle of, or that one idea from their stories and experiences that might help us adjust and maybe do a deal that we wouldn't have done, or adjust midstream on something we're doing now, or learn something that we can implement right away. So guys, we're going to start off with, let's go back in time to 2008. You guys are in the middle of doing some different construction projects, right? And so, Mike, I'm going to let you kind of lead us into, you know, maybe take like 2 or 3 minutes to set the stage, and then we'll switch to John and kind of go back and forth and talk about how it ended up about your construction loans freezing. And then we'll ultimately get to what lessons learned, what worked, what didn't work, if you could go back in time, that kind of thing. So take us back 12 years ago and kind of set the stage on this one.
Yeah, that was messed up, man. In 2008, it was like a bomb went off, and just overnight, you know, there was no construction financing available. We had a bunch of projects going. Like when I say a bunch, I'm talking like 30 plus projects, and you know, banks kind of just froze their loans back then. So we had a bunch of half-built homes. You can't sell a half-built home. You can't rent a half-built home. You don't have money to finish the half-built home. I mean, we were straight up screwed. It was pretty bad. And so that was the scenario that we were in, that John and I were facing. It was just like the ultimate kind of apocalypse. And, you know, it's very, very different than what I'm feeling right now. Not to say right now is good or anything, but it was just like the ultimate like bomb went off kind of thing. And John and I were kind of just walking around the room, sucking on our thumbs, trying to figure out what to do. It was not good, man. It was a bad situation.
Okay, so John, what specific properties were these? Were they spec homes? Were they townhomes? Were they condos? What were they?
Most of them were spec homes. A lot of them were up in Summit Park. We had this idea to build on the most difficult lots we could find. And as we were working with architects to build on these crazy hills and really weird things, and you know, we were able to get the land really cheap, you know, kind of at the end of a subdivision being built out. And so we had a whole bunch of new construction deals going in right when 2008 came along.
So what was your financing structure? How did you guys purchase the lots and then do the construction financing, and with who? Maybe it doesn't matter what bank it is, but kind of set up exactly the specifics of how you set up the deal. Either one of you. Maybe go back to Mike Brenny.
Yeah. So that was all bank financing, and it's a bank that's not even around anymore. It went under. But that was back when if you had a heartbeat, you could get a loan, right? I mean, it was literally, are you alive? Here's $700,000. And so we had all bank financing on all these deals. It was fairly conventional. Actually, there was hard money in there too. It was a combination of everything, actually.
Okay.
We were all across the spectrum, man.
So you bought the lots with the construction loan, and then you had
Usually,
construction loans. Okay. So John, where were you midstream when you started getting calls from your banks, like saying, guys, the next draw is not coming, or where did it hit to where your guys like, oh crap, like now what do we do? We are out of money, whether because the bank stopped the money or whatever, like, where were you at the process?
I guess compared to now, it was kind of cool because it was a little bit slow, and we probably should have cut and run a little sooner. In fact, I remember us buying a lot after we kind of knew things were going south. That Robson lot, but so it kind of moved a little bit slow. But we had them in all stages of construction. But we had a bunch of them that were up to framing and to four-way and things like that. And then the bank, they essentially froze everything, and then they wanted us to reapply for the loans, which they had changed the programs at the time, so we wouldn't qualify for a lot of those financing programs.
So it's kind of like, hey, we're still open for business, but you got to requalify. But they set the bar so high that really what they were saying was, you guys are done.
You're done. You're done. It's time to pack it up.
Okay. So let's unwind this. And obviously, I'm sure that this could be an hour story and seminar just on these projects. But what was the end outcome for you guys? And then, Mike, talk about what lesson you learned. And, not predicting the future, right? Like, who knows if the market will go up or down here. Let's just assume that you really don't know the future, but what lesson would you take away from that looking back as if you were in those same shoes today?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'd be way more proactive. So back then, like I said, like the whole, shit kind of hit the fan, so to speak. And our construction financing got shut down and everything kind of got shut down. And looking back on the whole thing, I would have engaged all of the lenders, all of the banks, and I would have been more proactive in a solutions-based type of outlook. Like, hey, the market's going down fast. It's like catching a falling knife. I don't know if you remember that expression. That's kind of what it was back then, right? Because you'd price it, and then the house would be 30 grand less, then you'd price it 30 grand less, and your house would be 30 grand less. You just couldn't catch it on the way down. And so we kind of knew what was going to happen, like with the market going down back then. But we didn't take the steps necessary. We didn't call up the lenders. We didn't have those negotiations. We didn't have those hard conversations. And we really should have. That was probably my biggest mistake, was not just being more proactive and trying to just work out solutions with everybody. We're all in the whole thing together, right?
Yeah, I love it. John, wrap it up on this story. What to add to that, what Mike said?
I think that, you just get this kind of sense that things are never going to change. And that was kind of, it was early in my career, and, you start making money and things are going good, and you just kind of get this feeling like nothing bad is ever going to happen, but it always does. You got to kind of prepare for it. And that's why this time around, I feel like I'm more prepared for it, because I've kind of learned, like, the market goes up and down, and that's always going to be the case. We actually need bad markets to be able to reset and do things. And so walking through that kind of helped me to come to terms with that, so that it's a little easier to go through when it happens.
I love it. So my takeaways from this, and I'm sure you'll have all your own, and if you guys want to chime in the chat, maybe one of us has thought of something that the other one didn't think of, but a reminder to be proactive and communicate and be prepared. Again, we're not having these calls to try and predict what's going to happen or create any fear or panic. But either way, if the market's going up, in the next year, it's still good to be proactive, communicate, and plan ahead, right? Okay, awesome. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. This one I find really intriguing. I know we have some wholesalers on the line. We have some very creative people that have found deals in a lot of different ways. So, Mike, John, we're going to start with you leading into this one. Let's talk about how you sourced a home on eBay. Let's talk about that.
Well,
Set the stage.
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of being Mike's partner is Mike's specialty is just like finding the most random deals. And you know, he should really talk more about this one. But yeah, he came to us one day and said, "Hey, I found this deal. It's from eBay." And we were all, I mean, you know, this was probably 2010, I think, 2011 or something. And, you know, even then, like, oh, can you even buy a house on eBay? How does that work? Is this legitimate or anything like that? And so it worked out to be a pretty good deal. It was a little longer, but yeah, I mean, just the idea that you can look anywhere and you should be looking everywhere, you know, for deals. I don't know. So a lot of you went to Mike's RIA last year where he talked about deal flow, but you know, why not look on eBay? People list houses there.
Mike, how'd you find it? What were you searching for? Some old Pete Rose baseball cards, or I mean, what you were lost looking for? Some old Sports Illustrated, and then you found a house on eBay?
No, dude. Like online auctions is one of my favorite places to find deals. So we like one of the bigger home runs, or actually some of the bigger home runs we ever got, was this IRS auction website that we came across. And you know, then back in the day, we were hitting the Hubzoos and the Home Searches and whatever they were called back then, X-Home nowadays. So, you know, just kind of, I was thinking, hey, let's check eBay and let's check everywhere, right? Actually, like private auctioneers like Erklin and Olson sometimes does real estate auctions, you know, like local auction companies. So I was looking at those. I like to look everywhere, man. I like to look at all kinds of deals. And I found this deal on eBay, and so this is how bad, you know, like the market's changed, right? So it was a $30,000 house in Tooele on an acre of land. And granted, the house was like a bomb went off, you know, like it was bad. But, you know, it's on an acre of land and it was a house, right, for $30,000. But let me just tell you that the story on that, how it works. So we bought it for $30,000. Couldn't offload it back then for a wholesale fee, right? Lender that ended up funding it went out and looked at it and was like, "Oh my gosh, you know, this is a terrible house." Yeah. So then we. So they kind of got mad. They were like, "Hey, man, I don't want this house," you know. So I went and took my own funds, and I was like, "Okay, well, it's $30,000." So I went and took my own funds, paid off the lender, and the guy ended up, he couldn't pay me back. So I did a seller finance deal with the guy, right? So I paid off the lender. I now own the house for like 35 grand. So then I seller financed it to a guy for 50 grand. He couldn't pay me back for like 3 years. So then I got super lucky, and the dude got hit by a car when he was on his motorcycle. Ended up in this massive lawsuit, and I got paid out from his lawsuit. Ended up making like $65,000 on this $30,000 deal that I bought on eBay, you know, but it took like 3 years to get the money back, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, the thing with buying stuff in really weird places is sometimes it's been like an absolute 100% home run, and other times it's been a complete cluster. So it's hit and miss, man. You gotta just understand that's a very high tolerance for risk, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. And maybe after this call ends, Mike, if you're open to it, maybe you could download some of these ideas that maybe we didn't all catch, like the different websites or auctions or different methods, right? Like, I think that's going to be super helpful. But man, how creative is that? Like, I'm just thinking, John, let's talk about, you know, sourcing deals for a minute. You know, it seems like we've let, you know, the wholesalers kind of as flippers do a lot of the sourcing for us recently, right? Like, and don't get me wrong, like it's hard to compete with them because they're just so phenomenal and they have such a system and they have it dialed in, right? So I think if and when things soften, right? Like, and again, I'm not here to predict the future, but if and when it does, all those other angles that the Mike, Brenny, and John Maxims have gone, you know, sourced in the past, those are going to be gold, right? So I love that idea of always be looking everywhere. John, since we're kind of talking about that, you know, this wasn't maybe one of the stories, but kind of piggyback off of what Mike was saying. Can you think of another super creative way you found a deal that's like so unconventional that just came from you just always having your head up on a swivel looking around?
I don't know. I mean, the IRS auctions was one that we used to go there. I mean, we would keep that real secret because we didn't want anyone to kind of know about it. We bought this big house up in Oakley, one time off of an IRS auction. And this is when the IRS, I mean, somebody gets in really big trouble and they take the house away from the people, you know, so they're a completely different kind of deal. And this was like a huge resort property up at the IRS. And we went up and bid on it. And there were only like, I don't know, 2 or 3 other people there bidding. And I mean, it was just looking around everywhere I remember spending hours just searching every department of the government and what they could seize from people and take. And the DEA does auctions and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they're not common, like that they happen all the time, that it can be a single source, but it was something that we definitely were able to do. We even bought one of those IRS ones in Dallas once and flipped a condo in Dallas.
Wow.
It was such a good deal out there.
So the likelihood to me, and maybe this is wrong, but if people get in more trouble with, you know, their finances, bankruptcies, foreclosures, you know, stuff like that, I would think those avenues are going to be, you know, those outlets are going to have a lot more options than they have now, right? Because, you know, it's just like when there's short sales, stuff like that, right? Like those alternative places where other people have leverage to take people's properties back other than just a bank foreclosing, you know, a sheriff's sale, an IRS sale, you know, whatever. Those are going to be gold, and those are going to have, you know, you're going to find hidden deals. So, Mike, what's the cheapest house you've ever bought?
We bought, the cheapest house I ever bought was $3,000 or $3,500 house in Youngstown, Ohio, which we sold for like 21 grand. John and I also bought a house for like $7,900 in Montgomery, Alabama, that we still get like $600 a month on renters in there. But the cheapest house we ever bought in Utah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We bought a garage in Minnesota.
Yeah,
it was just a garage. Right?
I sent my buddy down to a trustee sale. I called my friend in Minnesota and said, "Hey, will you go to this trustee sale today? Do you have $12,500 you can bring to a trustee sale?" So you got to have good friends in different places too. But the cheapest house we bought in Utah was $20,000. I think we did it twice, and I think we sold it the next day to Mike Baird for $40,000 both times.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
JR wanted a quick loop of the IRS auction in Oakley, John. Wrap up that story real quick. What'd you end up doing with it?
I think did we end up wholesaling it to somebody else, or did we just partner with Aaron Wagner on it? I can't.
No, we partnered with Wagner.
We ended up flipping and selling it.
We bought that for 400 grand. We sold it for 759 with like a very light remodel. We actually kind of screwed the deal up because it was a double lot on the river. So we should have broke the other lot off, but we sold them together for some reason because we didn't know what we were doing. We sold it for like 759 and update that I just saw that posted. Somebody on Facebook posted that house the other day. Like, won't this be nice? It's listed for 1.2 million. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things I picked up on from that is these guys are also master networkers, right? They know people clearly in a lot of places. I mean, I heard Dallas, Alabama, Minnesota, you know, I mean, so they're getting super creative on where they're hunting deals, and they're not just sticking to their own backyard. Now, obviously, you got to be a little careful, right, to know the market, but it sounds like they're really good at, you guys are really good at not just knowing the market, but knowing people and getting a read on what other people's resources and expertise are, so you can leverage those, right? This would be good to go into the story of your Kensington house, but also drill down further on the power of your network and the power of, you know, knowing a lot of good people in real estate. And to lead into that, Mike, you were the one that brought this up between me, you and John, as far as like kind of prepping for this show. Talk a little bit about that house you guys bought on Kensington and how important it is for you guys when you were, you know, kind of exclusive partners on deals of real estate, like, you know, that Kensington deal.
Yeah. Real quick though, I don't actually recommend buying houses out of state. I usually lose money every time I do.
That's a good tip.
I was just kind of getting bored, and that's why we were buying stuff for like $3,500, $7,800. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
All right.
But,
that was all pre 2015 too.
Yeah. That was pre like market explosion. Yeah. But power of partnership, this is a good story. I was driving to the airport. We're going to Minnesota for our 1-week family vacation in the summer that we always take. And I'm literally like pulling into the airport, and this lady calls me, friend of a friend. I don't even know how she got my number. Said, hey, I got this house on Kensington. It was like 1400. It was in that 1400 block of Kensington, which is kind of John and I's wheelhouse back in the day, is Sugar House and that Eastern Sugar House area. And I was like, well, what was the price? And I think she said like, I can't remember, but it was like $250. And like instantly, I know like the land is worth like $325,000, you know? And so I was like, yeah, we'll take it. And she's like, well, you know, you really need to see the house. You know how agents are, right? You really need to see the house because it's really bad inside. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if the house is on fire right now. I'll buy it for $250. But she's like, no, you have to see the house. So I'm like, okay. So I like hang up the phone and I'm like, John, got to get over to this house. Like immediately, you have to get over there and you have to lock this deal up, because if they call one other person, they're going to take it, right? So John, you know, being a great partner, just like literally goes over to the house. And of course, the guy's wearing like a Star Wars shirt. So Maxim and this guy are best buddies within like 5 minutes. And we've got a signed contract and turned into, oh, there you go. We've got a signed contract and turns into like a massive wholesale. It was like a $75,000 wholesale for us at a time when we really needed a wholesale too. So it was just a great example of, you know, like if I wouldn't have had Maxim there, you know, I'm thinking about, do I miss my flight to Minnesota with my wife and 4 kids and all the stress and the BS that's going to cause me to go get this deal and make $75,000, you know? Or I've got my buddy that just goes over there and just takes care of it, and I have complete confidence that he's going to get it done.
That's awesome. John, tell it from your perspective. What did you learn on that one?
I mean, all I had to do was show up, but you know, Mike had the connection. And one of the great things about a partnership is, you know, everybody kind of gels differently with different people. I mean, Mike and I are very likable, so we get along with everybody, but there are still certain agents, you know, that like Mike a little better than me. Take some, you know, they can take him a little more seriously. And there's other people that, you know, I get along with better. So, you know, this agent was always, I mean, she knew me, but she would always call Mike with everything. And so it was, you know, I'm sitting there working one day and just get a call, like, go look at this deal. And, you know, it's just nice to be able to kind of work off each other's abilities and network instead of just your own. I mean, relationships are everything really, but, you know, you're not going to mesh perfectly with everybody, even if they like you. And so it was a good way to team up and do other things.
So I've been in partnerships before, and you guys, I think, are a great example of making it work for so long, and obviously still making it work, right? Like I'm sure you guys still do. Well, I know you do. You know, you don't do every deal together, right? But you still randomly do deals together. But talk about like how you approach it from like an ego point of view, because I see a lot of partnerships get blown up, or people that are doing deals with other people, it gets blown up because of like their ego, right? Like, where, Mike, along the way has like your ego or lack thereof benefited you or maybe harmed you when you think about doing deals with other people?
That's a loaded question, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, like
no, my ego definitely gets in the way. Like,
I didn't mean you have an ego. I'm just saying ego in general.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I have a bit of a temper. I have a bit of an ego, you know, whatever. And then you partners with Maxim, who has, you know, like no ego, and you're like, hey man, we like wear shoes today, you know? Like, could you do me a favor and like change your shirt, you know? So I thought we were good yin and yang in that way, but I don't know. I mean, you definitely got to check your ego at the door. I mean, I love Johnny, you know, so that was never a problem for me. But yeah, you're right. You'd see partnerships almost always blow up because of the ego dynamic. And you know, when I look at other people, that's usually why partnerships blow up. I don't think that was the case with us. I think it was just, you know, we got to a point where it's just like, you know, if you're doing that many deals, it's like at the end of the day, you're doing twice as many deals for the same paycheck, right? Because we kind of got to the same proficiency level. So it's like, well, you know, we just kind of hit a spot where it's like, well, you know, there's not a lot of reason for us to stay together anymore.
Perfect. John, any additional thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, really, I was just there to ride Mike's coattails. That's kind of how I do all my partnerships, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah, I you know, and I've done several partnerships since as well. And it just is important to kind of lay out, because ego's going to come into it. You know, depending on the partnership. But like with me and Mike, it was like, hey, it's 50-50 everything. And some months it would be Mike would pretty much get all the money that we made, and other months it would be me, and that's, you know, things like that. But because we kind of laid it out like this is the deal ahead of time, it worked out, I think, for us. And then and eventually we just had to kind of put on our big boy pants and go do our own thing, you know.
When would you say at what stage of your investing career, and maybe you guys just answered this, but for people that are listening on this call, we definitely have people that, you know, have done a ton of deals like you guys. We have a lot of people that are trying to do their first deal, and we have people in the middle that are trying to navigate how do they set things up. Where would you say you would definitely look to have a partner or a mentor to someone actually do the deal with? You know, what type of investor needs that person right now? And you know, I don't know, does that question make sense? Like, try and answer the question from somebody that's just getting started. Like, what would you look for in a partner, or what would you look for if maybe you don't have the money or the experience, or, you know, when is a partner important?
I mean, I think it's going to be a little different for everybody. There's I think one of the things, especially when you're starting out with a partner, there's kind of a little bit of security when you are sharing the risk and the finances and those kinds of things with other people. I think, and this can kind of segue into one of our other stories. I think Mike and I mean, we never like set out and said, hey, let's be partners, but opportunities kept coming. And we got an opportunity where we needed a couple $100,000 to kind of get back going after the market had crashed. We both went our separate ways and just survived however we could after losing a lot there. And so there came an opportunity, and we needed $100,000 to do one deal. And I was doing loan modifications, and I met this lady who called me up. She had a condo in Big Cottonwood Canyon in a resort area. And she owned it free and clear. She had inherited it, but she didn't have an income at all. And so she couldn't pay her property taxes on it. And so, you know, I'm kind of talking to her, helping her, you know, things. And I'm like, well, you know, I'd love to borrow, you know, some money on your condo, and, you know, we'll just put a lien on it, still be yours. And then we'll pay your taxes and you can use it however you like. And we ended up getting a hard money loan on her, with her condo as security. And it gave us, and we got a $200,000 loan that we were able to use to kind of catapult us back into, you know, lending was kind of not easy back then. There wasn't a lot of 100% loans and things like that going on. So it helped out that way. But, you know, it was more born out of necessity when we needed to do that. Like, we needed to get that deal, you know, to take that one opportunity. And then after that, it just kind of spalled into another deal and another deal and another deal. So, you know, it's always going to be like, what do you have to bring to the table, and things like that. And if you can get along with that person, you know.
That is so creative. That is so creative. So if I understand what you're saying is through your constant networking, looking for solutions. And the other point I think to highlight here is, after the crash and after you guys kind of got your butts kicked, you guys had to adjust just to survive, right? So you were doing loan modifications, not flipping. I'm sure you were still looking for flips, right? But you encountered this lady through your loan modification work at that time. Marketing, is that right? Yeah, that you're marketing for that. You find out she owns it free and clear. And the other important point here is you're not looking to take advantage of her, right? Like, you're looking to find a solution for her and also for yourself, right? So then, Mike, what did you guys do with that $200,000?
We leveraged it with a capital partner that basically gave us like 10 times that amount as a kind of a line of credit.
Awesome.
So yeah, I still remember that though. Like, when you talk about partnerships, so, you know, John made a good point where, you know, you kind of need somebody to hold your hand when you're not ready to do it yourself, right? You have that 50-50 income coming in. You kind of need somebody just to hold your hand along the way and to say everything's going to be okay, right? Like that kind of helps, right? But then the other part of it is that you also need somebody that can do stuff that you can't do. And I can't go to people and pitch them that idea. I'm just not good at it, right? And Maxim can. And, you know, that's what he does. Like, sometimes, like, I would just like have Maxim be like, hey, John, go talk to this person or go talk to that person. And he just gets stuff done, right? Like, and he got that done. I still remember that. I still remember when he got that done. I was like, holy crap, because nobody was lending back then. It was really, really hard to get any kind of financing. It was really hard to get any type of money. And Johnny just went out and got that deal done. And it's a great synergy, right? Because I'm going to sit around and I'm going to sift through trustee sales. I'm going to make spreadsheets and I'm going to analyze stuff. And that's what I like to do. And John's going to go have those conversations with people that I'm probably not going to have, And so that's where I think that it was a good yin and yang. Number one, you need somebody just to help you along the way. Number two, you need somebody to kind of offset the things that you're just not that good at.
I love that. I think that last little bit of the conversation is like the key to being successful in anything you do. And, that to leverage your resources with someone else and their resources, whatever you want to call it, their unique strength, their unique ability, their superpower. And I mean, I've noticed that in my life in my business life in the last year or two with, say, development deals, right? Like, just to sidetrack really quick, and Jared Hall is on the call here right now. And Jared is a phenomenal architect, and he's so detailed and process driven, and he knows how to ask the right questions when it comes to land development and dealing with the city. I can probably do that stuff, but ultimately I kind of suck at it because maybe I'm not as committed to some of the details as I should be, because I just like things to go quick and like, let's just, let's keep moving along here, And so I've partnered with Jared on a couple deals, and it's just been so synergistic where I can trust and rely on him to do his part of it. And not speaking for him, but he's probably not as comfortable in the space of raising money and working with investors and raising capital and kind of putting the deal together. But that's where you can find some really good synergy. I'm going to read Clay Rockwood right now. He has a good point here, and John. So John Prince first. I found that a really tight LLC and a lot of upfront talk about division of responsibilities is key to partnerships. It's hard to over communicate. So it's super hard to over communicate. Clay, having the right partners has changed my business and my life. I was my own worst bottleneck in my business. I'm a true believer in having the right partners. So amen to all of that. How are you guys, Mike, dealing with your deals now where you don't necessarily have like a formal, like full-time team, like say Clay would have with his wholesale team? How have you found when you don't have a formal team, how do you kind of play the role as a free agent? Because I know you've kind of done that on different deals in the past, and you're kind of doing it now, right? Like, how do you play the role as a free agent? Because a lot of us are in that role of, we're solo entrepreneurs, but we also still need that occasional partner here and there.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of a partnership per deal type of situation, right? So I have this particular deal, and this particular partnership makes a lot of sense. I was hitting up the Fresh Prince on a deal that I had the other day, and
that's John Prince. Everyone else, if you don't know it, that's John Prince.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to work out for those guys. But he was the perfect guy that knew exactly what he was doing on that particular partnership. And just based on whatever the deal is, we're trying to buy a commercial building downtown right now, kind of up in the air with COVID, but we partnered up with the guy that is the right person for that particular partnership. So I've kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit in that, I definitely need people still based on the kind of deals I'm doing. And if I don't, then I pigeonholed myself into, I'm doing really either simple stuff, or slam dunk stuff, right? Those are the only kind of deals I want to do by myself, simple or slam dunk, And if it's not that, then I definitely need to figure out who's a good partnership for me on a deal.
Awesome. John, any final thoughts on that? And then we're going to move into one other topic here.
Being on your own is nice because, like when you screw up, nobody cares. Like you screwed up, you can spend too much money or do whatever and not even, there was the whole first 6 months, I wasn't even paying attention to my budgets or anything. I'm just like, well, who cares? I don't know. I'm sure I'm doing fine. I get a check at the end of the sale, so it's no big deal. But when you do have a partnership, it's really nice to be able to bounce ideas off people. And I find, when me and Mike were kind of talking last night, those were some fun times, that we had doing that. And in my partnerships now, it's kind of the same thing where it's a lot more fun to be doing this with somebody than to just be out there building your empire all by yourself.
I love it. I love it. And I edited some of what Mike said because I didn't really know if I had the authorization to say it, but in a text between me, Mike, and John last night, kind of prepping for this, he said something that I think really hit home for me as well, where it says, I think I forgot all the good times. Nowadays, I just remember lots of cat pee and bleep contractors, right? So we do forget the good times. And so one of the points of this call was to remember the good times, but also all of us right in the mix, in the middle of maybe the starting of your career, maybe you're in the middle, maybe you're at the end. Like, you got to pause and smell the roses, even if they don't smell very good at the time, right? Like, these are all going to be experiences that you'll build off of. And my guess is, John and Mike, if you guys hadn't had some of those experiences and those at-bats along the way, like, you never would have come up with the idea to do the $200,000 hard money loan on the gal that needed, to pay her taxes or whatever, right? Like, you never would have come up with that idea because you need the bats at the plate. So let's talk about that a little bit and incorporate that kind of thought when we talk about your guys's, different ways you've wholesaled in the past. Like, the importance to always be in the game, playing the game, if that's your business, and just being able to modify and change it and adapt along the way. So one of the ways you guys have done that, and I wish Mike Baird was on the line. I don't think he is, but I know you guys have done a lot of deals with Mike Baird, and we had Mike Baird on a couple of weeks ago, but kind of talk about some of these deals where Mike would bring them to you, and then you'd also leverage we see the wholesalers doing that all the time these days, but talk a little bit about some of your past deals when you're doing them with Mike Baird, and then you'd re-up the wholesale fee or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get into details. One of you take it, and we'll go down that vein for a little bit.
Maxim.
Well, I mean, Clay's on the line. I know we've done it with Clay a couple times too. The wholesalers are trying to get as much money as they can out of a deal, but you have relationships and markets, and everyone kind of feels differently about different neighborhoods and things like that. And we found in our partnership that we had a pretty dedicated following of people that we could send deals to for a long time, and wholesale has always been part of our business. And in fact, one thing I always hear, people will ask if they're buying, and I'm always surprised when I hear a seasoned investor, like, oh no, I'm not buying right now, or I have too many deals. Because what I've found is that if it's a deal and I don't have time to do it, I can sell it to somebody else, and I don't have to make $20,000, because a lot of times I'm not spending $40,000 in overhead marketing for that thing, like a true wholesaler is. The deal just came to me. If it's a deal, I'm going to say, yeah, I want that deal, and wholesale it. And so, yeah, we had a few deals where I know Mike Baird and Aaron Ravensheed were doing a deal up on Harvard. And Aaron Ravensheed brings it up. I don't think he's on the call either all the time, but Mike called us, and we said that we wanted it, and we were going to wholesale it to somebody else. But then Mike called us back and said, we got a better offer from somebody else. How about we just pay you guys the amount that we were going to make in the wholesale, and we'll turn around and make a little more selling it. And I mean, I think we made $15,000 on that Harvard deal, and all we did was say yes to it. And then we were going to wholesale it and probably make maybe a little less, I think like 5 or 10. But then because those guys had gotten a better offer, it just worked out to the thing. So, I mean, my takeaway with that, and how great it is wholesaling a wholesale, is that there's always deals to be made all over the place. And if it's a deal, it's a deal. Why not go for it?
Mike, are you still doing deals with Mike Baird?
Well, Johnny's the original Mike Baird guy. Actually, I think Baird's very first house he actually flipped with Maxim, literally 18 years ago. So that is where that connection came in. Baird and I did work on a house this year together, but Baird's done 10 times more deals with Maxim than he's done with me. And I love Baird, though. Like John just said that story about who does that, where a guy gives you a deal, you say yes to it, you lock it up, and he pays us, based off of what we committed to. Like that, Baird's got massive integrity. I love that guy, and I'd love to do more deals with him.
Well, so that's kind of where I wanted this part of it to come to a head. Is I asked you that question because you're still doing deals with Mike Baird, right? And the reason you're doing it is because you're networking and doing deals with honest people with a lot of integrity, right? Like, let's say Mike would have, said, you know what, John, forget it. We're going to retrade on this. You know what, you're out of the picture on this. Forget it, man. You should have sent us your earnest money. You should have locked this up and closed on it. You're out of the loop, right? Like, odds are you may not be doing another deal with Mike, but because you both were on the up and up, I mean, this is years and years and years of doing deals together or referring people back and forth or being a kind of informal partner, right? So like, I love that story and threading it together because it's not an attempt to show like that you one up Mike Baird by taking a deal and then marking it up above and beyond him, right? Like, you guys also had a network that he didn't have, right? So you had a buyer's list that he didn't have. And, you're not taking advantage of him or anything like that. You guys are really working together, not just on this one deal. You're living to play another game, right? Like, so you're still doing deals with him based on that trust and integrity year after year after year after year. I mean, that is so powerful. I don't know if that can be explained, in greater detail to just say that, all of your guys' character is what allows you to keep doing deals together and trading things back and forth.
Yeah, so true, man. I agree.
Okay, we're gonna kind of come up on the end here. I should have started with this. I think the theme of this call will be relationships and integrity and finding synergy with those people you work with. Always keeping your head on a swivel, looking for a solution, looking for an answer, and hopefully these stories will reinforce for people that are out there watching that they may be in the middle of a deal that they maybe didn't think they could still put together, but hopefully everyone's gotten an idea from this on a way to readjust and maybe figure out a solution to a deal that they didn't know of before. But I wanted you guys to share this story because I think it's so fascinating. How did you guys meet? You guys told me this at lunch one day, and I absolutely loved it. So this is just more for fun. It has nothing necessarily to do with real estate other than to highlight how big of a slumlord John is. But anyway, how did you guys meet?
So I had a girlfriend at the time. This is how long ago this is, because I've been married for 18 years. And I was going to move to Utah. And I saw this online ad that was like, cool house, Xbox and internet and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this sounds awesome. So I asked my girlfriend to go over to the house and check it out. And she calls me back and she's like, oh, the house is kind of sketchy, but the guys living there seem pretty cool. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll check it out. So I show up to Rose Park, and Maxim's got like this youth hostel going, where there's like 12 people living in this 1,600 square foot house, where these guys are in like bunk beds and rooms and stuff. And I was like, hey, I first of all, I got to have my own room. So, like, how much does that cost? I have to have at least that level of privacy. But this house was nuts. I'm telling you, I think John slept under the stairs so he could maximize his rental space in other areas. And the best part about that house that I remember, just to give you an idea of how crazy this was, there's this girl, I can't remember her name, but she lost a 10-foot anaconda in the house. A snake, like a real snake. And so I'm sleeping at night with like one eye open, just like waiting for this snake to breathe down on me. I don't even know if we ever found the thing. There's like a 10-foot anaconda that got lost in the house, right? It was just nuts, man. It was completely winging it.
That's awesome. And
that's how we met.
And that was the start of a beautiful and ongoing real estate relationship and friendship, so I love it.
John was the only guy at that house that had any potential. It was 11 other dudes, and I don't think I've ever talked to again.
John, are you still rolling that way? I mean, I know you got your house there with your wife and kids. Do you have people living in the basement there, or are you renting out the attic, or what are you doing these days?
I kind of traditionalized my rental portfolio. Started out with weird kind of bachelor pads and things, and it's funny, is kind of my first I just bought a house and realized I can rent out these rooms and not have a job or pay a mortgage, or pay rent. It's all taken care of, and Mike's not kidding. I literally slept under the stairs before Harry Potter was ever even thought of, and then I was able to rent out yet another room for $200 or $300, and so it worked out pretty good. So there's always ways to make money, you know.
There's always ways to make money. I think that's going to be the recap theme of the call. There are always ways to make money. John, Brett had a question actually from a day ago. Did you find the raccoon?
No, I didn't. I actually went today to the house to look and see if it had been caught, and it had actually figured out how to eat the can of cat food without setting the trap off. So I've got like a super raccoon that I'm dealing with. So still a work in progress.
Well, in my Zoom call, I have Steve Garrett above you in, this like matrix of people, and he's got a gun there with a holster and some antlers. I don't know. Maybe you guys need offline after this to connect, and maybe he can hide out there up in your attic with the shotgun, right? So
yeah,
and take care of that thing. All right, we're kind of coming up on the tail end here, and this has been so great. So one other theme that I'm gathering from this call is you guys each have a lot of confidence, right? You have a lot of confidence that things are going to work out, that you're going to find a solution. And, like we just said, that there's always a way to make money ethically and with the right opportunity and with the right network. I've been in these shoes before, but, let's talk about trustee sale purchases really quick, because they can be a test of your confidence, right? So go back, Mike, or John. You're at the courthouse, there's, 20 or 30 people there. There's all the regulars, the guys that have been buying stuff every day, that have their fancy iPads, and they know exactly what deeds are what. They've been driving it, whatever, right? Like, so let's kind of end this call with confidence. And how confident are you in the moment when you're buying a trustee, an auction house, and you end up, talk about one of those times where you end up winning it and you're the only one that bid on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the trustee sale is my favorite place to buy real estate. But like my specialty's always been value. Like I feel like I'm better at almost anyone at valuing residential real estate. It doesn't matter where it is or what the situation is. And that's why we've been able to do some deals that are kind of like harder to understand, because I've always just been really good at valuing real estate. So I usually didn't have any too much heartburn going down to the trustee sale and bidding on stuff. But my favorite trustee sales were always when you're down there and the auctioneer says, okay, 171. And you're like 171. And then all of those other guys that you're talking about that are experts that have their iPads and the regulars, they just stand there and look at you. And the trustees goes going once, going twice. And I'm just like, oh no, what did I do? What did I do? And so like I run out of the courthouse and like try to find the title and try to figure out what I screwed up. But I'll tell you, like the 3 or 4 times that happened to me, every single time it was a slam dunk. And I think that has to do with just my ability to value real estate. I've always been really confident in knowing what something's worth.
I love it. I love it. John, any experiences yourself down at the courthouse?
Yeah, I mean, I remember we bought that house on Hawthorne, the purple witch lady house, that just like that. And they even laughed at us when we bought it. Like Ron Myers and Rudd and those guys that are always there, they thought we were so foolish. And we made a whole bunch of money on that house. And so it goes back to a lot of the basic things, buying right and having your niche and doing what you're good at and things like that. So, yeah, but you got to earn your way in down there. Anyone who's been down there knows those guys put you through the ropes.
So whatever expertise you all have that are on the call listening, have the confidence to know that the preparation that you've done and the knowledge that you have, it's sufficient. There's still a risk. There's still rolling the dice, but be confident in what you're doing and be confident in your ability to make a decision and say yes, right? And also be confident in your decision to say no if it's not the right deal. Sometimes saying no is a lot better than saying yes. So you guys, we are kind of running out on time. I think we covered all of the ones that won't throw you guys in prison anyway, as far as the topics and the stories we wanted to discuss. I'm going to give you each kind of a minute here to just kind of do a final send off, and then we'll end the call, and this will be recorded for everybody else that wants to see it. And And I know John and Mike are both very accessible, and they're always looking for deals, or they're always looking to sell deals or create win-win situations. So if any of you are on the call that don't know Mike and John, reach out to them if there's something that's really connected, or you think you might have something for them, or that they could help you with, or whatever. And I hope that's okay to say that. I know you guys are both giving and answer your phones and willing to work with other people. So Mike, if you're ready, let's start for you. Any final words? It doesn't have to be grand or whatever, just any final takeaways from this call, and then we'll go to John and we'll keep cranking away on the day.
Sure. Yeah. Just to make it pertinent to like what's happening right now. The one thing I would say, like I've seen a lot of people on Facebook talking about how real estate's still good and you don't have to worry about this, you don't have to worry about that. And I think it's really important right now to understand that things are changing, and don't get caught in that, hey, everything's good and houses are still selling and everything's great. I'm not saying that the world's coming to an end. I'm not saying that we're all going down, but I am saying that things are changing, and it's really important to recognize that and not just get stuck in this, hey, everything's good, kind of like we did, back in 2008. Because what the forecasters are saying is that we're going to have a really big downturn over like the next 3 months, and then we're going to have a really big upturn in Q3 and Q4 of 2020. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity buying in the next 3 months. Probably not trustee sales, probably not bank sales, stuff like that. But I think there's going to be a lot of distressed equity opportunity buys out there. And I think that in Q4 of 2020, it's going to feel unfair when you're out there selling stuff. I think that the pent up demand is going to go up so quick that it's going to feel amazing. But make sure that you're going with this instead of just trying to talk yourself into like being calm and saying, hey, everything's still good and people are still buying stuff. Don't fall into that mentality. The next 3 months, try to take advantage of the downturn and then play into that as things swing back up in the last 2 quarters of 2020.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. John.
Kind of same thing, being pertinent. I somehow, I don't know how, I've kind of gotten a reputation of, that I don't really care and that I make a lot of bad decisions. I'm not sure where that comes from. But because of that, I kind of get people, and I have a lot lately, people who, there's a lot of people that will get on these calls and give advice who have tons of reserves and they've made so much money they could literally just not leave their couch for the next 6 months. There's plenty of those gurus out there offering advice. Problem is that advice doesn't work for some people who have gotten themselves into bad spots by either over leveraging or going too fast or going too far or things like that. And so I'm not sure why, but I get a lot of those folks reaching out to me, and I'm realizing that there are a lot of people who are kind of getting nervous about what's going on. And, maybe things work out just like Mike predicted. In fact, I've known Mike a long time, and when he says stuff, I usually figure out he's right. He's done his research. But, even if things do get really bad, I read this a couple years ago, and I want to offer this book to everyone because I think it's really helped. It's called Solve for Happy. The CEO of one of the Google things wrote it. I can't remember his name, but it's a great book. And I'm rereading it right now, and I just read a chapter about the biggest problem is control, and we can't control the market. We can't. Like, coronavirus could morph in 3 months at the bottom of this dip that Mike's talking about and get even worse, and World War III could start at the end of the year. Like, those things are not in our control. And the only 2 things we can't control is action and attitude. And that's basically my whole business model as I've gone through 2008 and all this stuff, is just kind of focusing on the things I can control, and that's action and attitude. And so I would just suggest that you work on today and not work so hard on predicting the future and not work so hard on lamenting the past, but just control those 2 things and make the best of it.
Man, couldn't have said any better myself. I think that is the best advice from both of you that we could have heard today. And I know I got a ton out of this. I hope everyone on the call did as well. Mike and John, I've really enjoyed getting to know you both and being your partners in a small way on different ways, and also having you be my partner in different ways in different, real estate deals. So keep after it. keep staying active, take action, have a great attitude, and good luck, everybody, and keep staying in the game and keep winning. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.